Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more time, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Joe, for having me.
You
I'm
bet.
excited to chat with you.
I am too. So where are you coming out of?
Oh my. I'm all the way in Scotland at the moment.
Ah, Scotland. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So came out here about 3.5 years ago to expand the business. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a lead into my first question here. The last 3 years, COVID's done quite a deal on all of us. And I'm
Mm.
curious how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you live and conduct business now.
Yeah. Good question. I guess it hasn't changed, honestly, too much about my business. I was always working remotely. My entire team works remotely. So even, that's always been the case for the last 8.5 years. So, so not really too much has changed on that side of things. Um, I think obviously the landscape has become, during that time, it become a lot more competitive because those who weren't online realized, well, I better get online, else my company's not going to survive. And even those that were online are looking for, other revenue streams. So, we found a lot of companies that, were originally only servicing, clients in the US, for example. We're now starting to look at expanding into, like the European region, which is one of the reasons that I'm out here, because I've got a wealth of experience in the United States, coming from Denver, Colorado, and moved over here, 3.5 years ago, just before COVID hit.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's pretty crazy. So I just moved here, and it was like, oh, great, I'm locked inside for 2 years.
Yes.
Perfect timing,
Yeah.
in a place that I've never been to before. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Well, that's one way of putting your feet to the fire. It probably expedited your or getting into a new environment, I would imagine.
I mean, that's when the true power of digital for me really shined, because I did everything online. Plates, cutlery, bedding, duvets, everything. Grocery shopping, like anything and everything you can think of, because we came over with nothing.
Yeah.
Just our suitcases, and everything had to get done online. I mean, my kids' school, investigating that, buying a house. So like the whole premise behind digital, the trustworthiness of it for me was, in the fact that I was able to do so much research on a place that I'd never been to in my life, and safely move my family over here, and have us all set up and functioning within a week, kind of thing. So that's the true power of digital for me, for you, well, for anybody.
Yeah, and I think that's the amazing thing about living through it this time. I mean, I think about when I was a kid in the 80s, if we would have had to have gone through that, how I mean, we would have been fine, but it would have been a whole different thing. Because when we were kids
Absolutely.
at that point,
Sorry
I
about
love
that.
dog sounds. You're fine. It's good.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
Yeah. I feel like I have a doggy daycare at the moment.
I do. I got a lot of dogs in my house. I have four, so I get it. So,
Yep, we're same as us four.
yep, yep, yep. One thing goes awry and they all follow each other. And that's the
Yeah.
thing I think that's interesting. When we were kids, we saw the Jetsons and all of these, like
Hmm.
seeing people on video. It's like we couldn't imagine that we would get to that point, but we did. And then we had a pandemic. But I think that's been a good outgrowth of all of this, is that as much as we realized, ironically, during this time that we needed to have that personal communication, that person to person community, we did also realize that we could exist in a different way via digital. For instance, telehealth
Yeah.
visits. You don't have to load up, drive all the way there, spend a very little amount of time, and then drive all the way back. You could literally just go to another room in your house get what you probably would have gotten in person and move on with your
Yeah.
life. The
Yeah.
efficiency, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's what, I mean, as much as COVID has torn up a lot of families, I think at the same time, one of the silver linings for me was just the fact that all of a sudden there's so much creativity that's come out of it. People have had to really start thinking there is no box.
Yeah.
Like nobody's experienced this, so let's try and adapt and adjust and feel our way through this. And I just think it was exciting to sort of see the changes that happened,
Yeah.
um, across the globe. To your point, just in healthcare, like so much changed. And I feel like it's just benefiting us now. We're all out and about now. But nobody enjoys just sitting there at a doctor's office, waiting, for 30
Yeah.
minutes before you can see the doctor. And then it's the drive there. It's just such an unproductive use of time. And I just feel like there's so much more benefits that have come out of COVID, and just, medicinal breakthroughs that are happening because of COVID, and funding that's now going towards all of that. It's fantastic to sort of see the benefits that are coming out of it, as much as it was a shitty 2 years.
Yeah, I get it. So let's
Yeah.
get into kind of the nuts and bolts of exactly what you do for a living. I'm going to put you
Mm.
hypothetically in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third graders. You're at a
Uh-huh.
career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I say to them that when you are on TikTok or on Google, or looking at a YouTube video and you see an ad that is showing up on there, that is what I do for a living. So that's pretty much how I would say it to them. In reality, though, they should be seeing videos that are inappropriate for their age group, which
Right.
is another angle of what we do. Is making sure we reach the right audience. So yeah, but that's sort of pretty much it. We get brands in front of the right audience. So
I like it. So, which is huge. I mean, that's a part of the whole process. It's one thing to make a product, but it's also another to get it in front of the right people. So, when you were in that same position in the third grade, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
actually, I wanted to be in advertising.
Okay.
So yeah, but the other side of it, I was moving more towards the graphic creative side of things. I used to paint and do graphic design and stuff in school, and I just, when the time came and I started growing older and older, and I started getting to more into the business economic side of things, I really enjoyed that as well. So I was like, oh, how can I do both? And there you go. So I was just one of those lucky ones who, my passions found their way into the subjects I did at school and college afterwards.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you are lucky because there's a lot of people that do flounder and takes a long time for them to get where they want to go. So when you have that dream
Yeah.
and you can get it, it's good. So I'm curious in your capacity of really getting in front of the right audience and everything that goes into you marketing and advertising in the correct way. What's been in your life one of the most impressive advertising campaigns that you've ever witnessed?
I mean, I always refer to Amazon in general. Um, the reason I always refer to Amazon is because they sort of live by what I practice as well. So they don't just make large sweeping changes on things. They've, looked at the data, they've looked at how their customers are navigating on the site, how they're purchasing on the site, what's going to help the customer. And they, obviously they've benefited a lot, from thinking about it that way, but they're very customer centric, with regards to how they've set up how to set up an account on there, how to shop on there, how to find complementary products on there. They've just evolved, and you'll notice that they, haven't reinvented their logo, they haven't reinvented their website. They just keep making tweaks on tweaks on tweaks, based on what they're learning from user behavior. And I love that. And it's something that we preach a lot to our clients at Pico, because one of the things we want to do is make sure that people are testing, not sticking with the status quo. You know, and it doesn't need to be massive tests. It could just be, you know, testing out the color of a button or the text that's in the button. You know, you don't need to make these massive sweeping changes to see improvements. Actually, you see more when you understand what's working and what's not working. A massive improvement could be, well, what part of that improvement worked? You don't know the answer because too much was changed.
That's interesting you say that, because it's totally true. I never really thought about it in that context, but Amazon's remain relatively static, not in a bad way, but they haven't changed. Because sometimes Apple will put a new iOS out and it's like, why? Why do we have to have this wide sweeping change of something that's functional and that makes sense? Like, if I could go back to the first iPhone that I ever had and that operating system, I would be completely happy. But that, I don't even remember what that was, because it's been so long and so many things have changed. But yeah, Amazon's been relatively good at that. And if they do make changes, they're sneaky. Like, even the way that they'll kind of advertising will find its way on other things that you're searching for. I mean, they just want to sell you the right thing, and they're doing everything they
Yeah,
can to get there, you know?
yeah. And I think that's the same with, like, you know, with a lot of what we're doing is the partners that we work with. So say Amazon, because we can do, you know, paid advertising on Amazon as well. And obviously list products on Amazon. But at the same time, even on Google, there's lots of things that people don't understand is happening behind the scenes. So, you know, just because we're advertising on Google doesn't mean that Google's going to necessarily list our product on Google, product or service. You know, because it's about what we're prepared to pay for some to show up for that. But it's also based on, well, what's the landing page experience like for someone who's searching, right?
Yeah.
It's is the ad answering the query that they've typed in? You know, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of historical metrics that also go into it, and obviously there's AI now, you know, that is pushing who shows up in
Yeah.
those top spots. You know, it's not just about, well, I'm going to bid and I'm going to be in position #1 on Google. It does not work like that anymore. It hasn't for a while, and it's getting even more so with the, you know, the evolution of AI and just the growth of AI, specifically, you know, on the digital platforms. So
Yeah. So
crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. It really is, especially with AI. So let's get an idea of where you started and where you're at now. You had mentioned Denver, you're in Scotland now. Talk to me a little bit about, even in this journey geographically to where you're at now, what were some of the seeds that were planted into you to grow into who you are today?
Yeah, I think so. I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and I don't know. I just think, you know, I've met a lot of, obviously, South Africans. I've worked with a lot of South Africans, and we're just all hard workers, you know. And you know, I would work with a South African in a heartbeat, like, you know, just because they're such great hard workers. I think I think the one thing for me, and I hate saying it because, you know, I just look at us all as people, not necessarily genders. Um, but, you know, when I started in the digital space 25 years ago, it was an extremely male dominated industry. And I'm a very competitive person. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna make it to the top. And that's pretty much what I did. Like, I mean, I worked hard though. I worked really hard. And I think, you know, people coming in, you know, today it's maybe a different landscape than what it was 25 years ago. But, you know, I was working a good 12, 13-hour days. You know, I was learning, I was constantly learning, I was constantly reading materials. Um, and that was back when I was in traditional advertising as well. I just did print, radio, and TV. And then I got into the digital space. And then it was just crazy as well. It was in South Africa, we were on dial-up, and
Yeah.
and it was just an amazing journey. And to the point earlier, like, now we're looking for people, trying to market to each individual person. I talk about it on my website a lot, trying to reach heartbeats and speak to them. And back in the day, it wasn't like that. Back in the day, it was like we bid 1 cent higher than our competitors, and there's not much competitors. And now there's just so much that goes into building a campaign efficiently, that yeah, that's just changed a lot. And I think you've got to understand and respect what you enjoy doing. And that's what changed for me about 8.5 years ago when I started Pico. I was at an advertising agency, a large advertising agency, and I loved working with them. They're fantastic. And it just, for me, I'd gone up the ladder and I'd gone up the ladder and I'd done what I wanted to do. I'd done what I challenged myself to do. And but then it got to the stage where it's like, I miss running campaigns. Like, I miss the day-to-day of getting to know a client and building out a strategy, and then actually seeing that strategy come to fruition, and
Yeah.
then watching that strategy perform, and then tweaking the strategy. And it's just like, I just missed that, because the higher up the ladder you go, the more you're in meetings, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to still be on the ground, doing the work. So I started Pico to, basically fulfill what I wanted to achieve. And I think the biggest thing out there is just, I've always taken very good calculated risks, I would say. Sometimes that they've backfired on me, but I'd say the majority of them I've thought them through strategically, and either I've learned from it or I've benefited from it. So, well, both of them are the same, but some of it benefits you financially and some of it you just learn from.
Yeah.
So, but it's a tough path to take, really. So, but as you can tell, I'm sort of committed to making, interesting decisions, of like even moving continents, because I feel like it gives you a different perspective on the cultures and understanding cultures and human behavior and that kind of thing. And you have it sort of a new respect for, or different respect for, different cultures. So even moving to Scotland now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's taken me so long to just buy a car. In the US, like, you walk in and you can walk out with your car.
Mm-hmm.
Like here it was like 4 to 5 weeks.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm like, wow, this is a real test of patience, because I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
I'm like, immediate gratification, and over in Scotland it's less so. So, but it's interesting because you're able to take that information and, build that into a lot more effective campaigns for all of your clients.
So on this path for you, who's been kind of a hero for you?
um, I guess I'd say my parents, in all honesty, because they're the ones who kick-started it. Being like these little nomads. I was born in England. My parents are from England, and it was just, they sold everything and moved to Cape Town, South Africa, like just like that, and moved us 2 kids. And they, my dad gave up an insurance policy to pay for my college, and he started his own company as well, which was very inspirational. Just to sort of see what he did, on the mechanical engineering side of things. So, and then when I started my company, my parents were there for me, just helping me out, and helping me understand what I was doing. Because at the time, I was a subject matter expert. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing paid search, social, LinkedIn campaigns, display for like 25 years. pretty much since the birth of Google. And, I haven't run a company. So, my parents were a huge guide for me on that. Particularly my father, who's just been with me every step of the way, helping me out. So, yeah.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
I've always said Madonna.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I think she's great at her own branding. She's great at getting a crowd enthused. She's also great at keeping herself in the headlines, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
She's always got a way to spin it. And she's just I think she's an excellent marketer.
Yeah.
Also, I think so is Ryan Reynolds now. Like Ryan Reynolds
Yeah.
would be my new version of Madonna. But growing up, it was always Madonna.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So of all of the things that you've accomplished in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Ah, I'd say my son. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a 14-year-old, um and I've always taught him to be independent and self-sufficient. And it's just great to see, kind of thing. He was making his own he was making his own, breakfasts and lunches. And granted, it was like all packaged and ready for him to go, but he knew where to go in the kitchen to go get it. And we had it all positioned for him. He had his own little table and chairs, and he was doing that by 2.5. And sitting down and doing that. And now he's better at cooking than I am. He's very competitive, which I love. He's just a strong person. And he's just a kind-hearted kid. I mean, I don't know, he's just one of those kids. I've always taught him to think about the problem. Doesn't matter, if, think about the problem and think about the solution. And, don't come to me with just the problem. Like, at least try and have thought it through. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in most things. There's usually relatively gray areas in most things. But he's always done that, and he's always come to me with solutions. And I love that about him. I just love that he is moving into the world, hopefully in the right direction. So, it's always a
Excellent.
proud moment when your kid comes up to you and he's, solving problems. I love that.
So let's stay kind of in that realm a little bit here of youth. And I'm going to take you to a place here where, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life. What would you
Mhm.
tell your young version?
I would tell my young version that it's important to blend, not blend, but have a cutoff somewhere down the line. Like I said to you, I was working about 12, 13-hour days. And I've done that for many, like many, many, many years. And you sort of end up becoming a bit of a workaholic. And it got to the stage where like my mental health was being impacted, because I was just constantly pushing and constantly pushing. And I think, the other thing as well is just being okay to fail, and learn from it. And I think back in the day, I was very hard on myself when it came to failure. And I would say, failure is not a bad thing. So, it's just part of growing. But just the way my personality was at the time, failure for me was not an option.
So everyone out there has a perception of you. We all have these different people that exist in our life, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but
Mhm.
ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am hardworking. I try and juggle a lot. Um, I'm I think for me, I'm always trying to please others. I would say that. I'm always trying to give back to the community. I'm always, like my company generously gives to charities. Like it's just, that's just how I live my life. I'm not here to, own a mansion on the beach. I'm not interested in that. It's about doing what I love doing and blending family time and work time and just trying to find the right balance and having a good laugh with my dogs who are mental, as you just heard. Yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. Like, just do what I love doing and staying the course.
Yep, the rest will fall into line.
Staying true. Yeah, staying true to myself basically, and staying true to the things that I've learned over many years of working in this space.
So, Samantha, if anyone out there is interested in hiring you, learning anything more about you, anything pertaining to your particular world, where can they go?
Yeah, so my website is choosepico.com. So CHOOSEPICO.com. And you can go there. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. So just search for Samantha Bedford on LinkedIn. And also my email, sam@choosepico.com. You're welcome to reach out on there as well. And I'd love to chat with anybody. I'm pretty much an open book. The biggest thing for me is just what's right for the end consumer at the end of the day and making digital a better place. And also just getting rid of some of the bad um, bad messages that are out there on the internet, the ones which are like, I can get you in position number one. And I'm
Yeah,
like, sure.
yeah,
Thanks for that. That's never going to happen. Or it will happen, but it will happen on a keyword that gets no traffic.
yeah.
So just, sort of getting rid of these bad messages that are full of guarantees on things that can't get guaranteed and just sort of fixing some of those misconceptions that are out there, because unfortunately a lot of the clients that we come across have been burned by efforts like that and spent a lot of money on programs that their expectations just weren't managed correctly. And the first thing we say is, we don't guarantee anything. It's right there on our contracts.
Yep.
We can't guarantee anything. I said, but what I can guarantee is that I have 25 years experience in this space, and I'm going to be using every inch of it to at least put you on the right foot. But we're going to win some and we're going to lose some, and it's going to take patience, but you will see the fruits of it.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Samantha, thank you for opening up. You seem very self-actualized in this reality. It's great to hear your story. Send my best from Kansas City to Scotland. I appreciate it.
I will do. And
Okay.
thanks so much for
Excellent.
having me on the show today, Joe.
My pleasure. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Take
Take
care of
care.
yourself, Joe.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.